The champagne glass slipped from Naomi's fingers, shattering against the marble floor of the Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom. For a moment, the entire world went silent, not because of the broken glass. No one even noticed that, but because across a sea of designer gowns and $1,000 tuxedos, a man was staring at her like she was the only person who had ever existed. His eyes were dark, intense, and completely unnerving. Naomi's hands trembled as she grabbed a towel from her serving tray. This was bad. This was really bad. She couldn't afford to lose this gig. $25 an hour plus tips was the best money she made all month, and her rent was due in 6 days. But the man kept staring. Naomi bent down to pick up the broken shards, her face burning with embarrassment. She could feel his gaze following her every movement. When she stood up, she forced herself to look in his direction one more time, ready to mouth an apology for the disturbance. That's when it happened. Their eyes locked, and without thinking, Naomi smiled. Not the practiced, professional smile she gave to demanding customers at the cafe. Not the hopeful, eager smile she plastered on before auditions. This was different. This was real, genuine. The kind of smile that came from somewhere deep inside, the part of her that still believed in magic despite working 3 jobs and sleeping 4 hours a night. The man's expression changed entirely. His mouth opened slightly, and he took a step forward, pushing past a stunning woman in a red Versace dress who had been trying to get his attention for the last 10 minutes. Naomi's heart started racing. She turned quickly, nearly running toward the kitchen with her tray of broken glass. What was she thinking? Men like that didn't smile at girls like her. Men like that collected girls like her, used them, and discarded them. She'd seen it happen to too many of her friends in this city. Naomi! Chef Marcus barked as she burst through the kitchen doors. What happened out there? You look like you've seen a ghost. Nothing. Naomi lied, dumping the broken glass into the trash. Just clumsy. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. For the rest of the night, every time she entered that ballroom, she felt his eyes on her. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with perfectly styled black hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. There was a scar above his left eyebrow that somehow made him more attractive, more dangerous. And he was surrounded, constantly. Women who looked like they'd walked straight off a Milan runway kept approaching him, touching his arm, laughing at things he didn't say. Naomi counted at least 50 of them throughout the night. Supermodels, actresses, socialites, each one more beautiful than the last. He ignored every single one of them. At 11:30, as Naomi was collecting empty glasses from a corner table, she felt someone standing behind her. She turned around, and there he was, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Hi," he said, and his voice was deeper than she'd expected, with the slightest accent she couldn't quite place. "Hello," Naomi replied, gripping her tray so hard her knuckles turned white. "Can I get you something?" "Your name," he said simply. "I'd like to know your name." Naomi's first instinct was to lie, to give him a fake name and walk away. But something about the way he was looking at her, like she mattered, like she was someone worth knowing, made her tell the truth. "Naomi," she said quietly. "Naomi Clark." He smiled then, and it transformed his entire face. The cold, intimidating stranger became someone warm, someone human. "I'm Kaisung," he said, "but everyone calls me Kai." "Well, Kai," Naomi said, finding her courage, "I need to get back to work before I get fired." "Wait," he said, reaching out but stopping short of touching her. "Can I see you again? Tomorrow, maybe? I'd like to talk to you. Really talk to you." Naomi looked at him carefully. She'd been in New York for 4 years now, and she'd learned to recognize players from a mile away. But something about this man felt different. Dangerous, yes, but different. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said softly. "We're from different worlds. You can see that, right?" "I don't care about worlds," Kai said, and the intensity in his voice made her breath catch. "I walked past 50 women tonight, and I didn't see any of them. Not one. Then you smiled at me, and I forgot my own name. Please, just coffee. One coffee." Naomi should have said no. Every survival instinct she developed since moving to the city told her to walk away. Instead, she heard herself saying, "I work at Rosie's Cafe in Brooklyn. 6 a.m. shift. If you're serious, you'll find me there." Then she turned and walked away before she could change her mind, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She didn't think he'd actually show up. Men like him didn't wake up at 6 in the morning to chase waitresses in Brooklyn. By the time she got home to her tiny apartment in Bed-Stuy, she convinced herself the whole thing had been a bizarre dream. Her roommate Maya was still awake, studying for her nursing exam. "How was the gala?" Maya asked, not looking up from her textbook. "Weird," Naomi admitted, kicking off her shoes and collapsing onto their second-hand couch. "Really weird." "Weird how?" Naomi told her everything, about the broken glass, the staring, the 50 supermodels, the invitation. When she finished, Maya finally looked up, her expression serious. "Naomi, you need to be careful. Rich guys who chase waitresses, that never ends well. You know that." "I know," Naomi sighed. "He probably won't even show up anyway." But at 6:15 the next morning, as Naomi was pouring coffee for the early bird construction workers who frequented Rosie's, the bell above the door chimed. She looked up and nearly dropped the coffee pot. Kai stood in the doorway wearing jeans and a simple black sweater, looking completely out of place among the worn booths and cracked linoleum floors. Every head in the cafe turned to stare at him. He walked straight to the counter, his eyes never leaving Naomi's face. "You came," she whispered, unable to hide her shock. "I said I would," Kai replied. "Do you have a break coming up?" Naomi glanced at her manager, Tony, who was watching the interaction with unconcealed curiosity. "I can take 15 minutes, she said. They sat in a corner booth, coffee cooling between them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Naomi studied his face in the morning light and noticed the tiredness around his eyes, like he hadn't slept. "Why are you really here?" she asked finally. "And don't tell me it's because I smiled at you. People smile at you all the time." "No," Kai said quietly. "They don't. Not like you did. Everyone smiles at what they think I am. The money, the status, whatever they want from me. You smiled at me like I was just a person. Like I was worth that kindness for no reason at all. Do you have any idea how rare that is?" Naomi felt something crack open inside her chest. "I don't know anything about you," she said. "Not really." "Then let me tell you," Kai said, leaning forward. "Ask me anything." "Okay," Naomi said slowly. "What do you do?" "For work, I mean." Kai's jaw tightened slightly. "I work for my family's business. Import-export, mostly. Some real estate, other investments." It was a vague answer, and they both knew it. But Naomi decided not to push. "Not yet." "Your turn," she said. "Ask me something." "What do you dream about?" Kai asked immediately. "When you close your eyes at night, what do you see for your future?" The question caught her off guard. Most men asked about her schedule, her availability, her relationship status. They didn't ask about her dreams. "I want to act," Naomi admitted. "Real acting, not just commercials or background work. I want to tell stories that matter. Stories that make people feel less alone." She laughed self-consciously. "I know it sounds naive." "It sounds beautiful," Kai said, and the sincerity in his voice made tears prick at Naomi's eyes. They talked until Naomi's 15 minutes stretched into 30, then 45. Tony shot her several warning looks, but she couldn't bring herself to care. Kai told her about growing up in New York, about the pressure of family expectations, about feeling trapped in a life someone else had designed for him. Naomi told him about her small hometown in Ohio, about losing her father to cancer when she was 19, about working 3 jobs while finishing her business degree online, because her mother had insisted she have something to fall back on. "You're exhausted," Kai said suddenly, reaching across the table and almost touching her hand before stopping himself. "When do you sleep?" "Sleep is overrated," Naomi joked, but Kai didn't laugh. "This isn't sustainable," he said seriously. "You're going to burn out." "I don't have a choice," Naomi said, her voice harder than she intended. "Some of us don't get to choose comfort over survival." The words hung between them, a reminder of the vast gulf that separated their worlds. Kai looked down at his untouched coffee. I know I can't understand what that's like, he said quietly. But I want to know you, Naomi. Really know you. Will you let me take you to dinner? Somewhere we can talk without you having to watch the clock. Every rational part of Naomi's brain screamed at her to say no. But her heart, the part of her that still believed in possibility despite everything, whispered yes. Okay, she heard herself say. But nowhere fancy. I don't have clothes for fancy. I don't care what you wear, Kai said, and the look in his eyes made her believe him. I just want to be with you. He left $100 bill on the table for a $5 coffee and walked out before Naomi could protest. She stared at the money, then at his retreating figure through the window, wondering what she'd just gotten herself into. Their first real date was at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. Kai picked her up in a car that probably cost more than Naomi would make in 5 years. But he opened the door himself and asked the driver to give them privacy. They sat in the back of that town car for 10 minutes before going inside, just talking. I'm nervous, Kai admitted, and Naomi was surprised to find that she believed him. This man who commanded rooms full of people, who had supermodels competing for his attention, was nervous about dinner with her. Me too, she confessed. I've never done this before. Dated? Kai asked, surprised. Dated someone like you, Naomi clarified. Someone from a completely different universe. Kai took her hand then, the first time he'd actually touched her beyond accidental brushes. His hand was warm, strong, and scarred across the knuckles like he'd been in fights. I'm just a man, Naomi, he said softly. Just a man who can't stop thinking about you. Dinner was perfect and terrible all at once. The food was incredible. The conversation flowed easily, and Naomi found herself laughing more than she had in months. But she also couldn't shake the feeling that Kai was holding something back. There were moments when his phone would buzz, and his entire demeanor would change. He'd glance at the screen, his jaw would tighten, and something cold would flash in his eyes before he silenced it and turned his attention back to her. Everything okay? She asked after the third time it happened. Just work, Kai said, but the lie was obvious. Nothing important. After dinner, they walked through Washington Square Park despite the cold November air. Kai took off his jacket and draped it over Naomi's shoulders without asking. It smelled like him, and she had to resist the urge to pull it tighter around herself. Tell me something true, Naomi said suddenly. Something you don't tell other people. Kai stopped walking and turned to face her. For a long moment, he just looked at her, and Naomi saw something in his expression that looked like pain. I'm trying to be different than my father, he said finally. I'm trying to build something that doesn't hurt people. But I don't know if that's possible given where I started. Does that make sense? Yes, Naomi said quietly. I understand trying to outrun your origins. Kai smiled sadly. I don't think you could outrun anything. You seem like someone who faces things head on. I've had to, Naomi said. When my dad died, he left us with nothing but debt. My mom worked herself sick trying to keep us afloat. I learned early that hiding from problems doesn't make them disappear. Is your mother still in Ohio? Kai asked. Yes. She remarried a few years ago. A good man. She's happy now, I think. She worries about me constantly, but she's happy. And your siblings? Just me, Naomi said. Only child. Which meant all her hopes and dreams got focused right here. She tapped her chest. Lots of pressure. Kai nodded like he understood that particular burden intimately. They started walking again, their hands almost touching but not quite. Can I tell you something? Kai said, and you have to promise not to laugh. I promise nothing, Naomi teased, grateful for the lighter tone. I teach Taekwondo, Kai said, at a community center in Queens. Every Tuesday and Thursday night. Kids mostly. Teenagers who need somewhere to go after school. Naomi stopped walking and stared at him. You're serious? Completely serious. Started about 2 years ago. It's the only thing I do that feels... He searched for the word. Clean. Uncomplicated. Just me and these kids trying to learn discipline and respect. That's not what I expected, Naomi admitted. What did you expect? I don't know. Country clubs? Yacht parties? Exclusive restaurants every night? Kai laughed, but it sounded bitter. That's what people expect. That's what my family expects. But it's not who I want to be. Then who do you want to be? Naomi asked. Kai looked at her with such intensity that she felt her breath catch. I want to be someone worthy of that smile you gave me, he said. I want to be someone probably, Naomi said honestly, but I'm okay with selfish for one more night. They dated for 3 weeks before Kai told her the truth. 3 perfect, impossible weeks where Naomi felt like she was living in a dream. Kai would show up at her cafe before her shift started with fresh pastries from the best bakery in Manhattan. He came to her terrible off-Broadway productions and told her she was brilliant even when the play was objectively awful. He met Maya and charmed her despite her initial suspicion. He never pushed for more than Naomi was ready to give, never made her feel rushed or pressured. But the phones kept buzzing. The cars kept appearing. And Naomi kept noticing the men who seemed to follow them everywhere, always at a distance, but always watching. The truth came out on a rainy Tuesday night in December. Naomi had gone to watch Kai teach his Taekwondo class, and something about seeing him with those kids, patient, kind, completely present, made her heart ache. After class, they sat in his car outside her apartment building. Rain drummed against the roof, creating a cocoon of privacy. I need to tell you about my family, Kai said suddenly. I've been putting this off because I'm terrified, but you deserve the truth. Naomi turned to face him, her stomach knotting with dread. Okay. Kai took a deep breath. My family runs one of the largest Korean crime organizations in New York. My father is the head. I'm the heir. Everything we have, the money, the properties, the businesses, most of it was built on things that would send us all to prison. The words hung in the air between them. Naomi felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Crime organization, she repeated numbly. Like the mafia? Similar concept, different structure, Kai said, and she could hear the shame in his voice. My grandfather started it when he immigrated in the 70s. Protection rackets, gambling, loan sharking. It evolved over time. We've expanded into legitimate businesses, but the foundation is rotten. Naomi's hands were shaking. Why are you telling me this? Because I care about you, Kai said desperately. Because I'm trying to change it. I've spent the last 2 years buying out our criminal interests, investing in legitimate ventures. The community center where I teach, I own that building. I'm trying to create something good, something that helps instead of hurts. But it's slow, and my father fights me on every change. Does your father know about me? Naomi asked, her voice barely a whisper. Kai's silence was answer enough. Oh, God, Naomi said, reaching for the door handle. I need to go. Naomi, wait. No, she said, louder than she intended. You lied to me. For weeks, you lied to me. I didn't lie, Kai said desperately. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. Not to me there isn't, Naomi said, tears streaming down her face. I trusted you. I let you into my life. Do you have any idea how hard that is for me? How much courage that took? I know, Kai said, and she could see that he was crying too. I know, and I'm sorry. But please, just let me explain. Let me show you what I'm trying to build. It doesn't have to be like it was. I can make it better. Naomi looked at him. This man she'd fallen for despite all her better judgment, and saw the truth in his eyes. He believed what he was saying. He genuinely thought he could transform a criminal empire into something legitimate. I don't date criminals, she said quietly. I can't. I have a family to protect. I have a life I'm trying to build. I can't risk everything for this. You're not risking everything, Kai said. I would never let anything happen to you. I swear on my life, Naomi, I will protect you. You can't promise that, Naomi said. You can't control everything, Kai. That's not how the world works. She got out of the car and ran into her building, ignoring Kai's calls behind her. Maya found her sobbing on their couch 2 hours later. What happened? Maya asked, immediately sitting beside her and pulling her into a hug. Through broken sobs, Naomi told her everything. When she finished, Maya was quiet for a long moment. Okay, Maya said finally. This is serious. This is really serious, Naomi. These aren't the kind of people you mess with. I know, Naomi whispered. Do you love him? Maya asked bluntly. I don't know, Naomi said. Maybe. I think I could. But it doesn't matter because I can't be with him. It's too dangerous. Then you need to end it, Maya said firmly. Completely. No contact. These situations don't end well, Naomi. You know that. Naomi nodded, even though the thought of never seeing Kai again made her want to vomit. You're right. I know you're right. But ending it turned out to be harder than she'd anticipated. Kai showed up at the cafe the next morning. Please, he said simply, just talk to me. 5 minutes. Kai, I told my father about you, Kai interrupted. Last night, I told him that I'm serious about you and that he needs to accept it. Naomi's blood went cold. You did what? I'm not hiding you, Kai said firmly. I'm not ashamed of you, and I won't pretend you don't matter to me. If he has a problem with that, he can deal with me directly. You absolute idiot, Naomi hissed, pulling him outside where they could have privacy. You think you're protecting me by painting a target on my back? I'm protecting you by making it clear that anyone who touches you will answer to me, Kai said. That's not how this works. Naomi said, her voice rising. That's not protection. That's making me a pawn in whatever power struggle you have with your father. You're not a pawn, Kai said desperately. You're the most important person in my life. Don't you understand that? I would burn everything down before I let anyone hurt you. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Naomi said quietly. Kai, I can't do this. I can't be with you. It's too much. It's too dangerous. I have a mother who depends on knowing I'm safe. I have dreams that don't involve looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. So that's it, Kai said, and the devastation in his voice nearly broke her. You're just going to walk away? I have to, Naomi said, tears streaming down her face. Please don't make this harder than already is. She turned to go back inside, but Kai grabbed her arm gently. I love you, he said. I know it's too soon and I know it's crazy, but I love you, Naomi Clark. And I'm not going to stop fighting for you. Naomi pulled her arm free and walked inside without looking back, because if she looked back, she knew she'd run straight into his arms and never leave. For 2 weeks, Naomi thought it was over. Kai didn't show up at the cafe. He didn't call. There were no flowers, no messages, nothing. She told herself it was for the best. She threw herself into her work, her auditions, her classes. She tried to forget the way his hands felt on her face, the way he looked at her like she was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Then the men appeared. It started small. A black SUV parked outside her apartment building. The same 2 men sitting in the cafe during her shifts, never ordering more than coffee, always watching. Maya noticed them first. Naomi, those guys have been here for 3 days straight, she whispered during Naomi's break. That's not normal. Naomi's hands started shaking. She pulled out her phone and called Kai for the first time since their breakup. He answered on the first ring. Naomi, there are men watching me, she said without preamble. Your men? What? Kai said, and she heard genuine confusion in his voice. What men? Where are you? Rosie's Cafe. There are 2 men who've been here for days. Black SUV outside my apartment. Kai, what's happening? Stay there, Kai said urgently. Don't go anywhere. I'm coming right now. He arrived 20 minutes later, and Naomi had never seen him look so furious. His entire body was tense. His jaw clenched so hard she thought his teeth might crack. He walked straight to the 2 men and said something in Korean that made both of them go pale. They left immediately. Kai came to Naomi's table and sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. Those were my father's men, he said quietly. He's having you watched. I didn't know. I swear to God, Naomi, I didn't know. Why? Naomi asked, though she already knew the answer. To scare you, Kai said, his voice tight with rage. To make you understand that you don't belong in my world. To push you away from me. It's working, Naomi said honestly. Kai looked at her with such anguish that she had to look away. I'm going to fix this, he said. I'm going to talk to him. Kai. No, he said firmly. This ends today. He doesn't get to terrorize you. He doesn't get to make you afraid. He left before Naomi could stop him, and she knew with absolute certainty that whatever happened next was going to be bad. She was right. The confrontation between Kai and his father happened that night at the family estate in Manhattan. Naomi only learned about it later, pieced together from fragments that Kai shared during their last conversation. According to him, it had been violent. His father had hit him. Kai had hit back. Furniture had been broken. Things had been said that could never be unsaid. The ultimatum had been simple. End it with Naomi, or she would be removed from the equation. Permanently. Kai refused. His father made a phone call in front of him. 30 minutes later, Naomi's mother received a call from an unknown number. The message was brief and terrifying. Tell your daughter to stay away from the Lee family, or there will be consequences. Naomi's mother called her immediately, sobbing, begging her to tell her what was happening. Naomi lied and said it was a misunderstanding, that everything would be fine, but her mother didn't believe her. For the first time in years, Naomi heard real fear in her mother's voice, and it shattered something inside her. When Kai showed up at her apartment that night, his face was bruised and one eye was swollen shut. Naomi let him in because she didn't know what else to do. I'm so sorry, he said immediately. Naomi, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. They called my mother, Naomi said flatly. They threatened my mother, Kai. Kai closed his eyes like he'd been physically struck. I know. I tried to stop it. I tried to make him understand that you're not part of this. But he doesn't care. He sees you as a weakness. Something he can use to control me. Then we both know what we have to do, Naomi said, and she was surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Inside, she was screaming. No, Kai said desperately. There has to be another way. I can protect you. I can... You can't, Naomi interrupted. You can't protect me from your own family. You can't even protect yourself. She gestured to his face. Look at you. I don't care what he does to me, Kai said fiercely. I can take it, but I can't lose you. You already have, Naomi said, and the words felt like knives in her throat. This is over, Kai. It has to be, not because I don't care about you, not because I don't believe you're trying to be good, but because I will not sacrifice my mother's safety for this relationship. I won't do it. What if I left? Kai said suddenly, what if I walked away from all of it? The family, the business, everything. We could go somewhere. Start over. And they just let you go? Naomi asked skeptically. Crime families just let their heirs walk away with no consequences. Kai's silence was answer enough. This is the world you were born into, Naomi said gently. I don't blame you for that, but I can't live in it. I won't. So this is it? Kai said, and his voice cracked. After everything, this is just it? Yes, Naomi whispered. This is it. Kai stood there for a long moment, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Then he walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. I'm going to fix this, he said quietly. I'm going to make it right. And when I do, when I build something worth having, something clean and good, I'm going to find you again. And I'm going to ask you to give me another chance. Kai, you don't have to say anything, he said. Just know that I'm not giving up. I'm just regrouping. Then he left, and Naomi collapsed onto her couch and cried until she had nothing left. The months that followed were the hardest of Naomi's life. The men stopped watching her, but the damage was done. She jumped at every shadow, suspected every stranger. Her auditions suffered because she couldn't focus. Her grades slipped because she couldn't sleep. Maya was amazing, but even she couldn't fix the Naomi-shaped hole that had opened up inside her. She heard about Kai through the grapevine. Apparently, he'd taken over more of the family business. There were rumors of internal conflicts, of old associates being pushed out, of entire operations being shut down. Someone at the cafe said they'd heard the Lee family was going legitimate, but that seemed impossible. People like that didn't just change. Did they? 6 months after their breakup, Naomi was at her lowest point. She lost one of her 3 jobs due to budget cuts. Her student loans were crushing her. She'd been rejected from every audition she'd attended in the last 2 months. She was starting to think that maybe her mother had been right. Maybe she should go home, get a normal job, accept that dreams were for other people. Maya found her crying in the bathroom on a particularly bad Tuesday. "Okay, that's it," Maya said firmly. "I'm officially intervening. You're depressed, you're isolated, and you need to do something for yourself." "I don't have time for myself," Naomi said miserably. "Make time," Maya insisted. "There's this new community center that opened up in Queens. They offer free classes. Art, fitness, self-defense, all kind of stuff. You should check it out. At least try something." "I don't know," Naomi said. "I'm not asking," Maya said. "I'm telling you. Tomorrow night, you're going to that community center, and you're going to take a class. Any class. I don't care which one. You need to get out of this apartment and remember that there's more to life than work and rejection." So Naomi went. She chose a self-defense class because it seemed practical, because maybe learning to protect herself would help her feel less afraid all the time. She walked into the community center expecting a corporate gym or a rundown building. But what she found was something in between. It was clean and well-maintained, with bright murals on the walls and the sound of laughter echoing from various rooms. She found the right studio and walked in 5 minutes before class started. There were about 15 other people there, mostly women. The instructor had his back to the door, talking to one of the students. Then he turned around. Time stopped. The entire world fell away, because the instructor was Kai. He looked different, older somehow, but his eyes, when they met hers, they lit up with such joy and disbelief that Naomi felt her knees go weak. "Naomi," he breathed, and the way he said her name like a prayer, like a miracle, made her heart crack wide open. "Kai," she whispered back. For a long moment, they just stared at each other while the entire class watched with unconcealed curiosity. Then Kai seemed to shake himself out of his trance. "Everyone, this is Naomi," he said, his voice not quite steady. "She'll be joining us today. Naomi, you can grab a mat from the corner." The class was torture. Every time Kai demonstrated a technique, every time he walked past her to correct someone's form, Naomi felt like she couldn't breathe. He was professional, careful not to single her out, but she could feel his awareness of her like a physical touch. When class ended and everyone started filing out, Naomi forced herself to approach him. "Hi," she said stupidly. "Hi," Kai replied, and she could see that his hands were shaking slightly. "I didn't know you were coming here. I didn't know this was your place," Naomi said. "I mean, Maya mentioned a new community center, but I didn't think—" "I built it," Kai said quietly. After everything, I needed a project. Something good." "It's beautiful," Naomi said honestly, looking around the bright, welcoming space. "Can we talk?" Kai asked, "Please? I know you don't owe me anything, but I have so much to tell you." Every self-preservation instinct screamed at Naomi to say no, but her heart, which had been broken and frozen for 6 months, whispered yes. "Okay," she said, "we can talk." They went to a coffee shop a few blocks away, the same coffee shop where they'd had their first real conversation, though neither of them mentioned that. They sat across from each other, two people who loved and lost and weren't quite sure how to start again. "You look tired," Kai said softly. "So, do you?" Naomi replied. "It's been a hard 6 months," Kai admitted. "The hardest of my life, actually." "Tell me what happened," Naomi said. After that night, Kai took a deep breath. "I went to war with my father. Not physically, though there was some of that too, but a real war for control of the family. I started systematically dismantling every criminal operation we had. I bought out our partners, paid off debts, shut down illegal gambling dens, the loan sharking operations, all of it." "Your father let you do that?" Naomi asked skeptically. "No," Kai said with a bitter laugh. "He fought me every step of the way. But I had allies, people who were tired of living in fear, who wanted out. And I had leverage. I'm his only son, his only heir. He couldn't completely cut me off without losing everything he'd built. That must have been dangerous, Naomi said quietly. It was, Kai admitted. There were threats. A few attempts to scare me into backing down. But I didn't care. I couldn't care. Because every time I wanted to give up, I thought about you, about the fear in your voice when you told me they'd threatened your mother. I never wanted to be responsible for that kind of fear again. Kai, I'm not finished, he said gently. I need to tell you all of it. We're almost completely legitimate now. The real estate holdings, the import business, the restaurants, all clean. I've been working with federal prosecutors, giving them information in exchange for immunity for the employees who are just trying to survive. The old guard is either in prison or retired. My father... He paused, his jaw tight. My father had a stroke 4 months ago. He's alive. But he's not in control anymore. I am... Naomi felt tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Don't be, Kai said. I'm not. That sounds cruel, but it's true. He was a terrible person who hurt a lot of people. I'm not glad he's suffering, but I'm glad he can't hurt anyone anymore. What about you? Naomi asked. Are you okay? Kai laughed, and it sounded broken. No, I'm really not. I haven't been okay since the night you told me we were over. I wake up every morning, and the first thing I think about is you. I go to sleep every night wondering if you're safe, if you're happy, if you've met someone else. There's no one else, Naomi said before she could stop herself. The hope that flashed across Kai's face was almost painful to witness. Really, Naomi confirmed. I tried. Maya set me up on a few dates. But I couldn't, they weren't you. I've been looking for you, Kai admitted, for months. I didn't want to show up at your apartment or your work because I was afraid it would scare you. I was trying to find a neutral way to reach out, a way that wouldn't feel threatening. And instead I walked into your class, Naomi said with a small smile. Instead you walked into my class. Kai agreed, like fate. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 6 months of longing and hurt hanging between them. I don't know if I can do this again, Naomi said finally. I want to. God, Kai, I want to so badly. But I'm scared. I know, Kai said. I'm scared too. But I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I've done the work. I've changed everything I could change. I built this community center. I teach these classes. I employ people who need second chances. I'm trying to be someone worthy of you. You were always worthy of me, Naomi said softly. That was never the issue. Then what was... Kai asked. Safety, Naomi said simply. I needed to know that loving you wouldn't destroy my life, that it wouldn't put my family in danger. You're safe now, Kai said firmly. I swear to you, Naomi, on everything I have, you're safe. The men who threatened your mother? Gone. The operations that made my family dangerous? Shut down. I can't promise you that my past won't occasionally surface. I can't promise that there won't be people who remember who we used to be. But I can promise that I will spend every day protecting you, choosing you, putting you first. That's a big promise, Naomi said, her voice shaking. I'm a big believer, Kai said, in you, in us, in the possibility of being better than where we came from. Naomi looked at this man who had turned his entire world upside down, who had fought his own father, who had built something good from the ashes of something terrible. She looked at the hope in his eyes, the love written all over his face, and felt something inside her finally unclench. I want to try, she said quietly. I want to try again. Slowly, honestly. The smile that broke across Kai's face was like the sun coming out after months of winter. Slowly, he agreed. Honestly. I'll take any version of this you're willing to give me. I'm still scared, Naomi admitted. Me too, Kai said. But I'm more scared of a life without you than a life with all the complications you bring. I bring the complications? Naomi said with a laugh. You bring everything. Kai said seriously. You brought light into my darkness. You brought hope into my cynicism. You brought love into a heart that didn't think it deserved it. Kai, I love you, he said simply. I never stopped. I never will. You don't have to say it back. You don't have to feel the same way, but you should know that's where I stand. Naomi reached across the table and took his hand, scarred and strong and shaking slightly in hers. I love you too, she said. I tried not to. For 6 months, I tried so hard not to, but I do. I love you, Kaisung Lee. Kai brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently, his eyes never leaving hers. Can I take you home? He asked. Yes, Naomi said. Please. Starting over was harder and easier than either of them expected. They set boundaries. No rushing. No secrets. Complete transparency about everything. Kai showed Naomi the books from all his businesses. He introduced her to his lawyers, his accountants, his business partners. He wanted her to see exactly what he'd built and how he'd built it. Naomi brought him into her world, too. He came to her auditions and waited in shitty hallways for hours just to drive her home afterward. He studied with her for her exams, making flashcards and quizzing her on business terminology. He met her mother over video chat and somehow charmed her despite the circumstances, answering every question honestly and without defensiveness. He's not what I expected, Naomi's mother said after the call. I thought he'd be, I don't know, scarier. He can be, Naomi said honestly, when he needs to be, but not with me, never with me. 3 months into their second chance, Naomi got a call back for a real role, not a commercial, not background work, a legitimate supporting role in an off-Broadway production. The pay was minimal, but it was a real theater company with real backing. She was so nervous for the final audition that she almost threw up. Kai sat with her in the waiting room, holding her hand. You're going to be brilliant, he said firmly. They'd be idiots not to cast you. There are 15 other girls here who are probably more talented. Naomi said anxiously. Maybe, Kai said, but none of them are you. None of them have your heart, your authenticity, your ability to make people feel things. That's what great acting is, Naomi, making people feel. She got the part. When her agent called with the news, she screamed so loudly that people in the coffee shop stared. Kai picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. I'm so proud of you, he said, setting her down but keeping his arms around her. So incredibly proud. I couldn't have done this without you, Naomi said honestly. You gave me the space to breathe, to focus on my dreams instead of just survival. You would have done it anyway, Kai said. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I just get to witness it. The play opened 6 months later. It got decent reviews and ran for 12 weeks. Naomi's performance was singled out by several critics as heartfelt and genuine. She started getting offers for other auditions, bigger roles. Her career was finally happening. Kai was there for every single performance. Front row. Every night he could make it. Afterward, he'd always bring her flowers and tell her which moments had made him cry. I think you're a little biased, Naomi teased after one particularly emotional performance. Completely biased, Kai agreed, irredeemably biased. I think you're the most talented actress alive, and I will fight anyone who disagrees. Their 1-year anniversary of getting back together came in the spring. Kai took her back to the community center, but it was after hours and the building was empty. He led her to the studio where they'd first seen each other again. I've been thinking, he said, suddenly nervous in a way she hadn't seen in months, about everything we've been through, about how we found each other, lost each other, and found each other again. Kai, what's going on? Naomi asked, her heart starting to race. Kai got down on one knee, and Naomi's breath caught in her throat. I'm not doing this a traditional way, he said, pulling out a small box, because nothing about us has been traditional. But I need you to know that you're for me, Naomi Clark. You're my beginning and my end, my redemption and my home. I built all of this, he gestured around the community center, to be worthy of you, and I want to spend the rest of my life continuing to build things that make you proud. Will you marry me? Naomi dropped to her knees in front of him, tears streaming down her face. Yes, she said. Yes, yes, yes. 1,000 times yes. The ring was simple and perfect, a single diamond on a platinum band, elegant and understated. It fit perfectly, and Naomi couldn't stop staring at it. "I love you," Kai said, cupping her face in his hands. "I will love you until I take my last breath, and probably long after that." "I love you too," Naomi said, "even when you're being dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic," Kai protested. "I'm being honest." They got married 6 months later at the same community center where he'd proposed. It wasn't a big wedding. Naomi didn't want big. Just their closest friends and family. The kids from Kai's taekwondo classes. Some of Naomi's theater friends, Maya, who cried through the entire ceremony. And Naomi's mother and stepfather who flew in from Ohio. Kai's father wasn't there. He was in a long-term care facility. And Kai had made peace with the fact that they would never have the relationship he'd once hoped for. Some wounds were too deep to heal. But his father's absence didn't diminish the day. If anything, it made it more meaningful. This was Kai's life now, built on his own terms, filled with people he'd chosen. Naomi wore a simple white dress from a vintage shop in Brooklyn. No designer gown, no elaborate train. Just a beautiful dress that made her feel like herself. Kai wore a dark suit and cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. Their vows were everything. "Naomi," Kai said, his voice shaking with emotion, "you smiled at me across a crowded room, and my entire world changed. I was lost, trapped in a life I didn't choose, becoming someone I hated. But you saw something in me worth saving. You challenged me to be better, to do better. You loved me enough to walk away when loving me meant danger, and you loved me enough to come back when I'd built something worth coming back to. I promise to spend every day earning that faith. I promise to protect your dreams as fiercely as I protect you. I promise to be honest, even when it's hard. I promise to choose you every single day for the rest of my life." Naomi was crying so hard she could barely speak. "Kai," she managed, "I've spent my whole life trying to survive. 3 jobs, student loans, rejection after rejection. I was so tired of fighting alone. Then you showed up at my cafe at 6 in the morning, and suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. You saw me, really saw me when I felt invisible. You supported my dreams without trying to fix them or manage them. You let me be scared and messy and complicated. You didn't try to save me. You just stood beside me while I saved myself. I love you for who you were, who you are, and who you're still becoming. I promise to be your partner in all things. I promise to tell you the truth, even when it scares me. I promise to build a life with you that honors both our pasts and our futures. I love you, Kaisung. I want to try. I want to keep trying for the rest of our lives." When the officiant pronounced them married, the entire room erupted in cheers. Kai kissed her like it was the first time and the last time all at once, like she was air and he'd been drowning. The reception was held in the community center's main hall, decorated with string lights and flowers from the local market. There was Korean food and American comfort food, a DJ playing everything from K-pop to Broadway show tunes, and a dance floor that stayed packed all night. Kai's first dance with Naomi was to an old jazz standard. As they swayed together, he whispered in her ear,
"Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for staying. Thank you for believing I could be better. Thank you for proving it," Naomi whispered back. "Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you for building something beautiful from something broken." Later, after the cake had been cut and the toasts had been made, Naomi found herself standing alone for a moment, watching the celebration. Maya appeared beside her. "You did it," Maya said softly. "You actually did it." "Did what?" Naomi asked. "Found your fairy tale," Maya said. "The real kind. Not the easy kind where everything is perfect from the start, but the kind where you both have to fight for it. The kind that costs something." "It cost everything," Naomi said honestly. "But it was worth it. He was worth it. We were worth it." "I'm so happy for you," Maya said, pulling her into a hug. "You deserve this. You deserve all of this." As the night wound down and guests started to leave, Naomi and Kai stood together at the entrance, thanking everyone for coming. The kids from the Taekwondo class formed a line, each one hugging Kai and telling him congratulations. One little boy, maybe 8 years old, looked up at Naomi seriously. Are you going to help Mr. Kai teach class? He asked. Maybe, Naomi said with a smile. Would you like that? Yes, the boy said firmly. Mr. Kai says you're the best person he knows. So you must be pretty cool. After the last guest left, Naomi and Kai stood alone in the empty hall, surrounded by the remnants of their wedding. Discarded napkins, half-empty glasses, wilting flowers. It was messy and imperfect and absolutely beautiful. We did it, Kai said, pulling Naomi close. We actually did it. We did, Naomi agreed. Now what? Now we live, Kai said simply. We wake up tomorrow, and we live our lives together. We fight, and we make up. We dream, and we build. We mess up, and we forgive. We just live. That sounds perfect, Naomi said, resting her head against his chest. They stood there for a long moment, just breathing together, hearts beating in sync. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Somewhere, someone else was falling in love, fighting for their dreams, struggling to survive. The world was still complicated, still dangerous, still unfair. But in that moment, in that room, two people who had found each other across impossible odds were simply happy. Simply grateful. Simply in love. Ready to go home? Kai asked. With you? Naomi said. Always. They walked out of the community center hand in hand, past the murals Kai had commissioned from local artists, past the studios where he taught discipline and respect to kids who needed it, past the offices where his legitimate businesses operated. This building represented everything he'd built, everything he'd become, everything he'd fought for. But the woman beside him? She represented even more. She represented hope, redemption, the possibility that people could change, that love could transform, that broken things could be made whole. As they drove through the Brooklyn streets toward their apartment, the one they now shared, filled with Naomi's books and Kai's taekwondo trophies and their combined dreams, Naomi thought about that night at the gala. The night she'd smiled at a stranger and changed both their lives forever. She'd been so young then. So naive. She'd thought love was supposed to be easy, that good people and bad people were clearly defined, that you could protect yourself from pain by being careful enough. She knew better now. Love was complicated. People were complicated. And sometimes the most beautiful things in life came from the hardest struggles. What are you thinking about? Kai asked, glancing at her from the driver's seat. Everything, Naomi said honestly. How we got here. How many times we almost didn't make it. How lucky I am that you walked into my cafe that morning. I'm the lucky one, Kai said firmly. We're both lucky, Naomi compromised. Let's agree on that. They pulled up to their building, and Kai came around to open Naomi's door, even though she'd told him 100 times he didn't need to. Humor me, he always said. Let me be a gentleman. As they climbed the stairs to their apartment, Naomi felt a sense of peace she'd never experienced before. This was home. Not the place, though she loved their little apartment with its terrible plumbing and creaky floors. But this person. This partnership. This choice they made every day to keep choosing each other. Inside, they collapsed onto their couch, still in their wedding clothes, too tired to change, but too wired to sleep. Mrs. Lee, Kai said, testing out the name. I'm keeping Clark professionally, Naomi reminded him. We discussed this. Mrs. Lee Clark? Kai tried. Just Naomi, she said with a laugh. I'm still just Naomi. You're not just anything, Kai said seriously. You're everything. Okay, now you're being dramatic again, Naomi said. I'm being honest again, Kai corrected. They fell asleep there on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms, still in their wedding clothes. When Naomi woke up a few hours later, Kai was awake too, just watching her. Creep, she mumbled sleepily. You're creep, Kai said. Forever. Forever, Naomi agreed. I like the sound of that. The next morning, they woke up to their first day as a married couple. There was no honeymoon planned. They decided to save the money for a down payment on a bigger place, but Naomi didn't care. Every day with Kai felt like a gift. They made breakfast together, A messy production that involved burning toast and spilling orange juice and laughing until their sides hurt. They talked about their plans. Naomi's next audition, Kai's expansion of the community center, their dream of maybe starting a family someday. Not yet, Naomi said firmly. I'm just starting to get real acting work. I'm not ready. Whenever you're ready, Kai said easily. Or never. I'm happy either way. As long as I have you. It was that simple, that complicated, that perfect. Months turned into years. Naomi's career flourished. She got a role in a television series that ran for 3 seasons and opened doors she'd never imagined. Kai's community center expanded to 3 locations across New York, providing free classes and resources to thousands of families. They bought a house in Brooklyn, renovated it themselves, and filled it with art and books and memories. They fought sometimes. Real fights about real things, money, family obligations, how to balance their careers and their marriage. But they always came back together. They always chose each other. 5 years after their wedding, Naomi stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her costume before a performance. She was starring in a Broadway production now, a role she'd dreamed about since childhood. In a few hours, she'd step onto that stage and give everything she had. But first, she took a moment to text her husband. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. His response came immediately. Always. Forever. Until my last breath and beyond. Break a leg tonight. I'll be in my usual seat. Naomi smiled at her reflection. She looked different than the scared waitress who'd smiled at a stranger across a crowded ballroom. She was older, more confident, more certain of her place in the world. But some things never changed. She still believed in the power of a genuine smile. She still believed in fighting for your dreams. She still believed in love that transformed, that challenged, that made you better. And she still believed in the man who'd seen her, really seen her, and chosen to build a life worthy of that vision. That night, as she took her final bow to thunderous applause, she looked out into the audience and found Kai's face. He was crying, as he always did when he watched her perform. Their eyes met, and Naomi felt the same electric connection she'd felt that first night. Some stories end with happily ever after. But the best stories, the real stories, end with a promise that no matter what comes next, no matter what challenges or obstacles or complications arise, the love remains. The choice remains. The commitment remains. Naomi and Kai's story was far from over. There would be more additions, more businesses to build, more obstacles to overcome. Maybe someday there would be children. Maybe there would be setbacks and disappointments and moments when they questioned everything. But they would face it all together. 2 people from completely different worlds who'd found each other through a smile, who'd fought for each other through impossible odds, who'd built something beautiful from broken pieces. That was their story. That was their truth. That was their forever. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in the power of transformation and second chances, if it reminded you that love is worth fighting for even when the odds seem impossible, then do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that change is possible, that people can grow, that broken things can be made whole. Comment below and tell me about a time when you had to fight for something you believed in. And hit that notification bell because every week I bring you stories about real human experiences, the messy, complicated, beautiful truth of what it means to love, to struggle, and to hope. This is just the beginning. There are more stories to tell, more lives to explore, more proof that even in the darkest moments, light can break through. So subscribe, share, and come back next week for another story that will remind you why being human is such an extraordinary adventure. Thank you for watching. Thank you for believing. And remember, sometimes one smile can change everything.